So, the next Furry Animes video was supposed to come out today, but guess who failed basic math and can't count? So, while I figure out what number comes after 4, have this. 10 furry manga in 10-ish minutes, or maybe it's 5 manga. I don't know. I asked my Patreon supporters about it, and I'm still waiting for a response as I write this. The first manga we'll be discussing is one I've mentioned before, and it's called Kuuri Senmon. It literally translates into The Fox and Tanuki 10 Million, but its official English name is The Fox and Little Tanuki. The Fox and Little Tanuki is a manga all about bakemono, magical animals that either serve the gods or their own ends. One of said bakemono was Senzo, the terrifyingly powerful black fox whose seal is finally being released, but the sun goddess has 2 conditions. 1. Wear these beads that seal your power, and 2. Take care of this little Tanuki, and thus the series gets its name. The thing that stuck out to me most about this manga was actually its art style because it's very Disney-esque. There are very few straight lines in the characters, giving them a very soft and round feel, and I won't lie, it does make everything hella cute. Like so cute. Even the story has a very Disney feel with a lot of focus being on the good inside us and how even the worst deserve someone to advocate for them. And I don't mean modern Disney, I mean like classic Disney, even down to the villains getting an extremely brutal ending. If you think Clayton hanging himself with vines is bad, in this one, Senzo bites the head off the main antagonist and eats it. There's no blood or anything, but that is insane for a children's story, like good lord. Though, despite it being a children's story and being very cute, it can be very shonen at times with lots of action. You won't get choreography or paneling like you'll see in Sakamoto Days, Kagurabachi, or Jujutsu Kaisen, but it manages to be entertaining enough. The real draw of the manga is seeing the main characters, specifically Senzo and the Tanuki he names Manpachi. That's actually a pun because Sen means 1000 and Man means 1 million. And I do love Senzo and Manpachi, their entire dynamic can be summed up by those "dad doesn't want the cat" memes. It's great. It's a dynamic that works wonders for these found family kinds of stories, and the Fox and Little Tanuki does it so well. Senzo is cranky and angry, and Manpachi is bouncy and happy, and it's just so sweet seeing the Tanuki slowly melt Senzo's heart without him knowing. A big theme of the story is that of our nature, seeing as how bakemono are formed by the dying wishes of regular animals. And those wishes do decide their personality, so that's a thing they have to reckon with. Were they born monsters or just made that way? It's a big part of Senzo's arc and even other characters as they try to figure out why they're here. They're also joined by a rather large cast if I'm being totally honest, like the white fox Koyuki, who's Senzo's and Manpachi's caretaker. My personal favorite character is Tachibana, a member of a pack of wolf bakemono even though he's actually a dog. And the story never seems to forget that, making him distinct in his mannerisms like having his tongue be out all the time, which is really nice. Sometimes I think the cast may be too large because I genuinely struggle to name some characters, but at the same time I wonder if that's just me being stupid. This problem is compounded by the animal characters also having human forms, so it's like putting a name to 2 faces, and I'm really dumb so I struggle to do that. The manga is topped off with a good sense of humor where it's not afraid to take the piss out of itself, especially in the extra materials. This extra material is called A Little Bit of Kuuri Senmon, and they're collections of comics and other stuff from the mangaka's Twitter page. And wouldn't you know, it's also super cute. The Fox and Little Tanuki is fairly short at 48 chapters, but the chapters do have a decent amount of pages. What's better is that the series is super available, with the entire thing not only having been translated officially, but you can buy it in individual chapters, digital volumes, or physical releases. Given how easy this series is to find, I'd totally recommend you read it. It's short enough that it's not much of a commitment either. I've wanted to make a video about the Fox and the Little Tanuki for a while, and it's something I'll definitely get to, so do like and subscribe to know when I make it. The next manga is one I stumbled upon on accident. I just saw it on the Shonen Jump app and thought, hey, this looks cool. It's called Shiba Inu Rooms, and it's about Kuuri Momose, who finds a really good deal on an apartment at only 48 bucks, but it comes with a condition. It's haunted, but not by the ghost of a human or a monster, but by the ghost of a dog. A really rowdy and mean dog named Mu-chan. Kuuri does her best to get rid of the damn thing by making it pass on to the next life, but it just ain't happening. The dog even bites her, making Kuuri finally hire an exorcist, who reveals that the dog wasn't attacking her, he was attacking the ghost, haunting her. Her hand was just a bit of collateral damage. Now understanding the dog's motive, Kuuri apologizes, and Mu-chan is like, yeah, don't worry about it, it's fine, because ghost dogs can also talk. And that's how Kuuri moves into her new apartment with a new dog on the house. Didn't even intend for that pun. The big thing about Shiba Inu House is that it's like brand new, and I mean like new. At the time I'm writing this script, it only has 5 chapters, and by the time you're watching this, it'll have 6. That's so few chapters, Shonen Jump hasn't even started locking them yet. This makes it very hard for me to speak about the series as a whole because, well, there is no whole, but at this early point in the series, I really like it. The series places a big focus on characters learning about the dogs, like finding out what makes them ascend and how the dogs in the various apartments differ. Some can only say one word while others are more verbose. Some can be pet a lot while others ascend very easily. Though, if I had to guess the long-term goals of the series, it'd be Kuuri coming out of her shell, seeing as how she was bullied real badly in the past. With Mu-chan acting as a secondary protagonist to get her out of her comfort zone, helping in his own mischievous way. The biggest draw of the series is definitely how cute it is. The entire manga has the vibe of those cute dog and cat TikToks that permeate the internet, where the animals act like animals in their own goofy and exaggerated manga way. It also leans into the manga's comedic nature that makes it light and easy to read. The series does have somber and sad backstories, adding texture to the writing and making the characters super sympathetic. You want to see these characters be happy because they're just so saccharine sweet. I'm struggling to keep this segment going because again, there's only 5 chapters. There's just not much I can say other than that you should totally read this manga. It's not hard to find, in fact, it's free on the Shonen Jump app, so go ahead and give it a shot. As some of y'all may have guessed, I follow manga very closely and I always have to keep my eye out for new ones, but this means that there are even more manga that get pushed down my list. This is one that I super wanted to get to and finally managed to make time for, and it's called Me and My Beast Boss. Sakiyoki lives in a world ruled by beastmen, but not the cool ones, the awful boring kind that are just humans with animal ears. But the one who reigns supreme in the social pecking order is Mr. Atlas, who has a regressive form of the furry gene, making him more animal than most and terrifying to everyone who sees him. And yet, he makes Sakiyoki, this bottom-rung human, his new secretary for reasons that are utterly beyond her. Is this fate? Is he just trying to make fun of her? He did actually acknowledge her talent, so she decides to put up with it, but the reality is that he is so deeply and utterly heads over heels for her, even if she doesn't know it. I have looked up female ananthro on a certain blue website way too many times to not read this manga. Is that a TMI? I feel like that's a TMI. Moving on. The manga's leading characters, Sakiyoki and Mr. Atlas, are surprisingly good. Atlas is a lot like Buggy from One Piece in a way, where everyone else's perceptions of him are just so off base from the real thing. Everyone thinks he's some harsh, mean king of the jungle, when the reality is that he's the world's biggest uwu soft boy, and I do mean biggest. He's like nearly 8 feet tall. His entire appearance, Muppet hands and all, belies how extremely sweet he actually is. Though I must admit that Saki is more generic in terms of personality. She's strong and stoic because she's learned she has to be, but at the same time, she practically melts when Atlas praises her. I like her most when she reminds us that this is a comedy manga with her wacky expressions and responses. I do think that one of the manga's weakest portions is the main conflict of the second volume when a new catty secretary is brought into the mix. It's not anything special and certainly not anything new. I remember a plot point just like this in The Sacrificial Princess and the King of Beasts, and despite that one being better, it was still boring. And this new secretary character is just bland, to the point where I don't really remember much about her. It only lasted like 3 chapters, but it managed to be enough of a banal killjoy that it sticks out as a particularly weak moment. What kept me going through that portion was the art, because it's still really good. This is a little side note, but I don't know what the artist does for Saki's hair, but it looks so fucking good. The white and black is just gorgeous. And speaking of the art, I really like the way the mangaka flips between the more usual on-model style for serious moments and the cartoony vivastic style for comedy. It's an art of contrast where each style is used to help the other, making the light moments feel light and the heavy moments feel heavy, rather than homogenizing everything into a singular look. Contrast really does seem to be a running theme of the manga where things are always more nuanced than they seem. For example, Saki is only stoic on the surface, it's a strong face she puts up. But it also goes deeper than that, like in the extra material where we see Atlas as a child having a lonely birthday. Yes, he's at the top of the social order, but that doesn't mean he's popular or loved. Or even Atlas's chauffeur, Mr. Gray, who seemingly hates Saki but is just trying to make sure she really is up for the job. He doesn't even hate humans, he has one for a wife. Me and My Beast Boss does have an official translation and 2 volumes that are available, with a 3rd being translated and arriving September 17th. I enjoyed the manga enough that I'll definitely be checking it out when the new volume drops. The next manga wasn't one I had any plans on covering, it was just something I found while browsing and was like, yeah sure, why not, who gives a fuck? And it's called Tamamo-Chan's a Fox. This story is all about Inari Shrine, but more specifically the fox statues that sit there to greet visitors. One of those statues gets so enamored with the mundane daily lives of the visitors, she convinced the goddess Inari to let her be a high school student. It's on one condition: hide the fact that you're a fox or face divine punishment. Unfortunately, she sucks at hiding that. Fortunately, all of her classmates silently agree to keep the secret because she's just so darn cute. It's a goofy concept that fits the nature of Tamamo-Chan's a Fox, that being a 4-koma manga. 4-koma means 4 panels. It's a format that is popular for comedy manga like Pop Team Epic, for example. What distinguishes Tamamo-Chan from other comedy manga is that all the jokes are built around her being a shrine fox, and it manages to find a lot of variety with the concept. One of my favorite gags is that whenever she collects votes or really anything, people always end up putting offerings in the box. The series places a huge focus on Japanese culture, so this manga is a fun way to explore that. It even includes blurbs off to the side, giving greater context to the events going on, so you're not left out if you aren't culturally aware. The supporting cast is also really good. We have Tamamo's immediate friends Miki and Naki, Tamamo's milfy older sister Tenko, who works as a teacher, and their accident-prone younger sister Osaki. The supporting cast in this manga is unironically huge as fuck. I can't name all the characters, and I know that's not just me being stupid. There's just a lot. There's the Simp Brigade, her 3 teacher, the Tanuki yokai that's actually a raccoon, and the Weasel yokai. The goddess Inari is even a character that shows up often. She can't leave holy places, so she always gets mad whenever Tamamo forgets to buy her a souvenir. And then there's an Egyptian goddess Anpu who gets introduced at one point, so it's more than a little overwhelming. This manga can also be kinda horny sometimes, like most chapters are no more than like 10 pages, except the bathhouse special, which is 20. The mangaka knows what they want, and you're going to get it regardless. The manga is also fairly long, with 96 chapters, so despite the chapters being short, reading them will take you a hot minute. This is the manga that took me the longest to read out of any on this list. Hell, it's probably the manga that took me the longest to read for any video I've made so far. That being said, I did enjoy this manga. It's a ton of fun, and the jokes did keep me entertained. If you want to try this manga for yourself, it has an official translation, so you can just buy all the volumes off Amazon. The final manga we have today is one that stood out to me for actually having full color. It's called Beastrings, and keep this on the down low, but I may have slightly originally thought this was a Beastars spinoff. You know, cause Beastars, Beast Complex, and Beastrings, but ignore that. Beastrings isn't about the world's saddest wolf, but instead takes place in a world just after disaster. The white whale threatened calamity, forcing fantasy races to come together, and the story takes place 10 years later in the city they all built. What stands out about this manga, I mean aside from the fact that it's in color, is that it's an anthology series. Now, I know some of you are probably sick of me explaining what an anthology series is, so I won't An anthology series is a collection of short stories that are tied together through either world, characters, or themes. Love, Death, and Robots would be an example of an anthology TV show, and Beast Complex, which I made an entire video about, click the top right, would be an example of an anthology manga. For Beastrings, rather than each chapter being totally separate, they do work together to tell a larger whole by the end of the story. Each chapter introduces the world, the characters, the concepts, the powers that are all necessary to have a satisfying climax. The first chapter is about the mayor and how he does his job. Formerly a berserker, he's now taken to politics to protect the city, but he's secretly been donning a hero suit to hide his identity while he takes a more hands-on approach. Think of him as a fantasy version of Mike Hagar, and his secretaries are like, okay, so I haven't played Final Fight, and I don't know if Mike Hagar has any sidekicks. I probably should have thought through this metaphor before writing it, or changed the script, but I won't. This chapter is all about introducing us to how the world works. Demon Beast, Juso City, the mayor, and his sidekicks, his dark elf secretary who's a former assassin, and his new secretary who's a succubus. The second chapter is dedicated to a variety of smaller stories themed after the zodiac: the rooster, the dog, the boar, the snake, the tiger, and the rat. Much like the first chapter, it's also dedicated to world building, but I like this second one much more. By focusing on a variety of characters as we bounce around the world, we get a much better look at how things work and the growing strength of Demon Beast. This chapter is also heavily romance focused. I count like 3 different couples in this chapter alone. The third chapter is all about a witch and her butler as she aspires to get her state license. It has a very big focus on the relationship between the witch and her butler and how she strives to achieve competence on her own in the wolf butler that wants to remain at her side. This is also the chapter where I noticed that the manga is horny, but not in the usual anime manga way. Like, the jokes aren't protracted or even real, they're usually just people getting the wrong idea, but they come out of nowhere. They don't even last a page, usually just one panel, so it's like the author was writing this manga and then felt the immense urge to remind the audience how much they love beautiful days and sunny mornings. The penultimate chapter is probably the most important, and it's all about a street musician who runs into a dragon man who she wants to form a party with. The entire chapter is all about the two of them, and I really like it. It's a bit similar to the Fox and Little Tanuki, where it's a grumpy old man being warmed up by a cheerful young person. This final chapter is all about tying these different arcs together as they prevent the white whale from returning. Beastrings is a really strange and bizarre manga that I totally adore. It reminds me a lot of Kekai Sensen in that it's a romp through a lively and active city full of weird things and oddities, yet it manages to be super consistent. If you pay attention, you'll actually notice the characters from other chapters appearing in the backgrounds as bystanders. It's great. The manga has an official translation and you can buy it physical or digital, and I totally recommend you do. I think that out of all the manga I've read for this video, this one is my favorite. This is definitely a manga I want to make an entire video about because it's just like nothing else. And that is where we wrap things up because this video got a little bit longer than I originally intended. This was originally supposed to be 10 manga in 10 minutes, but became 5 manga in damn near 20. So let's get to doing our Patreon shoutout. Starting with the 3 stars, we have special thanks to Choron, SkyKing64, 87 World, Karen LaFaze, Zora Chow, and Morvonla. For 4 stars, we have Miko, the poor little creature. And for our super duper special 5-star shoutouts, we have first Vanilla Flower, the shackled Shiba. Then the good old days, the consideration for others. Followed by Hodari Lion, the friends. Thank you for watching. Do be sure to like and subscribe. As always, this is Joe's Fuuri signing out.